In today's world, when all the manufacturers are following the same standards because of the environment friendliness and the cheap production, it's really a big thing when a motorbike manufacturer is stepping two big things. One of them is to make a bobber motorbike with only 300 cubic centimeters. Keeway did it. And the other thing is that this small 300 cubic centimeter bobber has in 2022 a V2 engine. We stopped beside the road and we couldn't really decide what this, I don't know, sculpture or what is meaning. Not to chain here your dog or not to let your dog to shit here, so it's much better not to speak about this sculpture, but let's speak about the V2 engine, because that's for sure not a piece of a shit. The heart of the Keeway V302C, as the name is showing, the V engine, it's a V2 engine. We do not know too much technical data about it. Maybe it is a 45-degree cylinder angle. The whole outside looking is absolutely like a big Harley-Davidson engine with the air filter and the pipes and everything else. And what is really important, that the sound of it is totally a typical V2 engine, so none of the inline two-cylinder 270-degree engines can make a sound, and the good vibration and the feeling when riding it is absolutely a real V2. So it's not similar to that, nearly that, but this is a real V2 engine. And also it has a very good 6-gear gearbox, 6-speed gearbox, sorry, and a continental belt as a final drive. And as a result of this, the whole drive chain is a totally smooth and nice behaving thing. And although the power is something like 30 brake horsepower and some 26-27 Newton meter from this 300 cubic centimeter, I could ride uphill here close to Budapest in Hungary, nearly all the way up to Dobogókő in 6-speed. Let's check out what is this small V2 engine is good enough with less than 30 Newton meter torque. Now I'm riding uphill and I'm starting from second gear. And first let's check out the acceleration in second, pulling it until the maximum rev. This is it. So the acceleration is absolutely good. And what is also a surprisingly good thing, that despite of the only 300 cubic centimeters, when I gear up to the highest 6th gear and riding there, let's say cruising there, under 90 kilometers per hour, well, this torque is absolutely enough again, so I can really easily cruise with the bike, even on curvy roads, even inside the city. When you gear up to 6-speed, you can really nicely come out from the curves and cruise all the time. Of course, here you do not have acceleration, but no vibration, nothing else. It's smoothly pulling out from the curve very nicely. We have to stop for a while and check the design of the V302C Keeway, because this is one of the most important parts of the whole motorbike, as in the case of a bagger, the design is a really important thing. And the overall design, so the whole silhouette of the bike and the parts checking by themselves are also on their places. For example, just have a look at the first light. Of course it's rounded, of course it is LED as we are in the 21st century, but for example, if you check this keeping part, is much more looking like plastic, although this is maybe iron, I am not sure, but these cooling
parts here inside in the lamp house. Of course they are not necessary as it is LED, but anyhow the whole looking is totally in its place. The short front mudguard, the design of the front wheel, the V2 itself of course is very important. Anyhow the fuel tank is relatively big, as it is 15 liters, so the range of the small Chinese bobber is pretty long, but the looking of the whole fuel tank and the V2 and the pipes and the end of the exhaust system, everything is looking pretty good. They were even taking care about to show a short part of the let's say frame, although this is a plastic cover only, so we can see this short part between the fuel tank and the seat. So all these design elements are absolutely on their places. The bike has a tube frame, and the cooler is in between the front and down tubes, and maybe because of the design this cooler is a little bit too small, because it is, when we are riding inside the city, it's nearly all the time working. Honestly, we nearly do not know anything about the suspension, but we know only what we can see on it. This is a relatively massive normal telescopic, upside down telescopic fork suspension. The lower bridge is a thicker one, the upper bridge is a little bit thinner one. Maybe it can be some 41 millimeters the diameter of it, but anyhow the front suspension, although you cannot change anything on it, is working really good. So even on bumpy roads, even in the curves, it's really behaving well. In the rear, as it is a bobber motorbike, we have two different suspension units on the two sides, and I think we can change the preload of it, but nothing else what is possible to change on it. This is also working pretty well. I had only one problem with it. Let's start, and then I'm going to tell it to you by riding.
Well, to be honest, bobber motorbikes don't really like, let's say, sharp curvings. So taking the curves, riding on a serpentine, really high speeds. The small Keeway is relatively good on this field. The only problem can be, what I can mention, is that the damping of the rear suspension is maybe a little bit not enough, especially for my body weight and for that style when I'm riding it a little bit harder. But we have a good engine brake, we have a pretty good torque riding up hills. Now I'm riding downhill, but when I was riding uphill the torque is surprisingly good, so you can really gear up pretty early. And not to speak, and despite of the small problem of the rear suspension, the whole bike is very easily taking the curves, so it's not a hard thing to ride on a curvy road with it. For example, when you use the front brake in the curve, the torque which is standing up the bike is absolutely low. So anyhow, it's a pretty good joy to ride it until the foot pegs or the heel of your boot is not reaching the tarmac. Until then, you can lean it down pretty easily. Let's check out on the real life, especially here on these bumpy Hungarian roads, how the comfort of this suspension is working, because it's surprisingly good. I was really waiting much less from this suspension. The only problem here is also with the rear one, because when you hit the negative road mistakes, so the holes, then it's hitting a little bit your back, not very dramatically, but that's the most negative part of it. Otherwise, even on these roads, it's surprisingly comfortable. So when you are only cruising and not, let's say, sport riding with sporty riding, with the small Chinese bobber, then the overall comfort is really, really good.
If we check the data in the catalog about the brake system, as at least about this we can find some data, we can think that this is an absolutely sufficient part of the motorbike, as in the front we have a 300mm big brake disc with a 2-piston caliper, iron tubes. The only mistake may be that you cannot change the position of the arm here, and in the rear we have a 240mm disc with a 1-piston caliper. We can see that we also have ABS there, as it is necessary by the law. And it is really funny that as you cannot change the position of the arm here, you can change the position of the pedal pretty easily, as you can turn it around, and it is just the same on the gear on the other side.
So in the catalog the brakes are really looking good and great, but in the real life they are not as good, especially the front one. I show you an emergency braking. So I can really, I'm nearly impossible or impossible to make such a hard brake with the front one that the ABS should work. Let's check it out once more. Honestly, the ABS was not working in this time. Maybe this is a 0 serial piece or I don't know what, and maybe the final V3 or 2Cs are going to be better. I do not know. Maybe it only has to change by the technicals the brake system a little bit, or maybe a changeable arm here would increase the efficiency of it. But with this special one bike, honestly, I didn't like the front brake. The rear one has no problem, but the front is not strong enough at all.
I was riding only on dry roads, so not in wet roads. Anyhow, with these tires which are on the bike, which are called Tim Shun or Tim Sun, I don't know what, some Chinese tires, I didn't have any kind of problem. The grip was absolutely good, but I must mention that the text on the tire is Tim Shun XL Beyond, and this is absolutely looking like one of the Continental Touring Enduro's tires, so it's really an excellent copy. But as we think about that the final drives belt is also coming from Continental, it's easily possible that the tire manufacturer got maybe the license to produce it. The dashboard has a round form, as it has to be round because of the bobber style, but the informative part of it is a totally simple LCD. We have an RPM counter, it's going round. You cannot really see it well while riding, but you don't really need it because you can feel and hear the RPM of the V2 engine. You can see the exact time, you can see the gear. It is not showing at the moment, normally it's here because it is in neutral now. You can see your current speed, you also can see the amount of fuel you have, and you can see an overall counter and an overall and the daily counter, and the daily you can change to 0. That's all, nothing more is necessary for a bobber.
I also saw that for my 190 centimeters, the small bobber is absolutely uncomfortable or going to be uncomfortable, but it is totally not. Just check out how I am sitting on it. The knee angle is close to 90 degrees. It's extremely comfortable. For example, the brake pedal, the gear changer is also in a very good position. The upper body is totally straight. The angles are everywhere, absolutely comfortable even for me, and with this right handlebar it's really easy to ride the bike. I have to say that I think even on long distances it wouldn't be uncomfortable even for me, and of course for shorter riders like me, because of the short seat position or low seat position, sorry, it's surely absolutely comfortable. these types of bobber motorbikes most often don't really like narrow U-turns, especially this one also has a pretty narrow steering angle. But anyhow, maybe because of the short wheelbase, the V302N has a pretty good ability in making U-turns like this, so it's pretty easy on a two-lane road. The only thing that you have to take care about is if you have long legs like me, you have to open your knees, otherwise the end of the handlebar is hitting it.
Here in Hungary, still a lot of viewers of our channel are asking why we are not making a Keeway Superlight 125 review. Now I can promise that we are not going to make it in the future, because this new V302C is existing and arrived in 125 cubic centimeter version. If you check out the bike, you cannot see any differences for the first sight. The only difference is the name is V-Cruise 125 and not V302C, and from the outside looking, the engine itself is absolutely the same, because only in the inside it is smaller. It has only 3 valves per cylinder instead of 4, but also an SOHC V2 engine. From the outside looking, everything is totally similar. The tires, the suspension, the dimensions of the bike, the wheels, the brakes and everything. And one more difference that I could find out, that in the rear brake we do not have an ABS. In the front we have, but in the rear the ABS is missing, so it's only a one-channel ABS and a 125 cubic centimeter, but the same way great looking and well-behaving bobber, and you can ride it with an A1 rider's license.
All in all, this small Keeway V302C is a much better motorbike, honestly, than I was expecting. I was really waiting that this is, well, with some compromises, it's a usable bobber cruise or anything like this, but you buy it only because of the price of it. But this is not true. This is a good motorbike, really, with a relatively good suspension, only this rear section problem what is existing. Very good, really well working V2 engine with the good vibrations and the feeling of it and everything else. So and the design, which is also a very important thing. So we have to say that this bike is worth to buy for itself, and not only for the price of it and that you save some money. So it is worth to buy. If you liked our review, please push a thumb up on it. Under the film, there, you can, in the description, you can find a link where you can donate our work. If you do it, then we send all of our films to you before they are public. If you haven't done it yet, please subscribe for our channel and watch our previous contents as well. And thanks a lot for your kind attention. Bye bye.